So this exercise is the flour sack suicide, and this is where we animate a flour sack hurling itself onto the ground. And it's a nice exercise for studying weight because it involves taking a relatively simple rig, the flour sack, and animating it jumping off a tall object and landing on the ground. And you've got to get it bouncing, and basically we're probably going to have 2 bounces and then animate the flour sack coming to a rest. So it's a good way of getting into the idea of animating weight and showing how things can feel heavy and at the same time bounce off the ground. So here's a sort of rough thumbnail sketch of what it might look like. Frame 1 here, the flour sack is on the wall. Then there's an anticipation at frame 9 as this flour sack crouches down. Then it hurls itself off the wall at 13. At frame 17 it's up in the air, 21 it's coming down. All these poses are 4 frames apart. Landing at 25, bouncing at 29, landing again at 33, bouncing again but less high at 37, then landing at 41 and splat, flattening out on the ground. And this pose here at 49 should actually be under 41. You don't want anything sliding at the end here. So that's roughly 2 seconds. I suggest that in this case you follow this timing, although you can of course make adjustments to it. If you want, for example, more time at the beginning, you could actually add quite a lot of time at the beginning if you wanted to add a little performance on the flour sack. Maybe it wiggles its little hands there, or ears, or whatever they are, before it goes into the anticipation and the leap. The main poses are, as I've said, the start position, anticipation, leap, mid-air, and then fall. So we're going to get a fair bit of squash and stretch here. Squashing as the flour sack compresses, stretching out as it leaps, then compressing again in the mid-air, and then falling. And you want to get on when it bounces, you want to be reversing the C-curve here like this. And when I say reversing the C-curve, what I mean is in animation you're often reversing curves. You often find that things are curving one way and then curving the other way. So here you've got the flour sack bending this way as it comes down, and then as it bounces off, you're going to have some overlap or drag on the little feet here, and then reversing the C-curve again on this contact, and then bouncing up again here. So here's our start position, the flour sack waiting to jump off the object. Here's our anticipation as it crouches down and squashes. Here's our leap as it stretches out and lifts off the object. Mid-air, there's going to be a little bit of a pause here at the top of the arc, and now it stretches out as it starts to come down. Contact, bounce, second contact, second bounce, less high this time, and third contact and splat. And finally it's going to rest and settle. And here it is. Here's the complete cycle again. Now, in order to find the flour sack, what you should do is go to Google and go to flour sack Maya rig and find the flour sack. And it's a free rig. It's available at Creative Crash, www.creativecrash.com. It's a really nice little rig. There are 2 flour sack rigs, 2 free rigs that I'm aware of, and you want the one that has a little. It comes with its own textures, and it comes with a little rooster on the front of the flour sack. That's the one you want. There is another one which I have tested, but in my opinion it's not quite as good, and it doesn't come with any textures, and it's nice to have a our flour sack comes with a little sort of Hessian cloth texture, and also the rockin' rooster on the front. Although I think actually there are two textures that you can select from. Now, a few tips for the flour sack. When you're going to create a little sort of polygon tower here, which you can do very easily just by going to create polygons, cubes, and then just stretch it up into position. And you are then going to use the world mover on the flour sack to move the flour sack into position on the top of your cube, on the top of your brick wall, or whatever you want it to be. Once you've done that with the world mover, you want to probably leave the world mover behind at that point. because you'll get confused otherwise. So just animate the flour sack using the other controls. Once you've opened the rig up, go to Show and turn everything off, and then just turn on polygons and NURBS curves, so you can just see the polygons and the NURBS curves. Otherwise, again, there's a tendency to get confused with too much stuff on the screen. And in order to, when you're animating the body, you probably want to shift select the legs as well, so that they will move with the body. So when you're just moving the body control, you'll find it will leave the feet behind. So if you shift select the legs and the body control, you can animate all three at the same time. And actually what you can do is create a little shelf tab for that, and by all means study the video on creating shelf tabs. There's a separate technical video on how to do that. And then you can have one tab which will allow you to select the legs and also the body control together. As a rig, it can be a little tricky in places, but it takes some, like all rigs, it takes a little getting used to. But once you have got used to it, it's a very nice little rig, and you can get very nice results. So good luck with the flour sack suicide.